What is going on, you guys? This is going to be my solo spoilery video, so I am going to talk about spoilers. We're going to talk about this movie. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about it in the comments below. If you don't want spoilers, this is your warning to get out. Now, I already did a non-spoilery review, so you can check that out. I probably was a little more harsh. I will say this, when I walked into the theater, I kind of had my arms crossed. I was expecting to see a movie that I wasn't going to appreciate. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I wanted certain things. I have a bias. I don't like backstories because they don't have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And I like big space battles. And also I like Jedi. None of that was really going to be prevalent in a solo movie. And I think I knew that going in. And what I mean by space battles is I mean like fleet-on-fleet incursions. Like the attack on Deep Space Nine, if you ever watched like that, so like the big like Dominion War stuff in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, or that end scene in Rogue One, or the Battle of Endor, things like that. That's what I really, really want to see more of. And you also had a pretty good amount, like the opening scene of Episode 3. I like big space battles. I like Jedi stuff, and I like basically high stakes situations, like where a planet can get blown up, right? You know, or a main characters can just die in the first act of the movie, and then you find out, whoa, mind blown. I think we all knew going into this that they probably weren't going to do that, but I was like this. I'm like, well, I want to see that. And I didn't see that. And thus, you know, maybe I was a little too harsh, but still, it didn't give me those things that I wanted, so this is never going to rank that high of a movie for me. Despite that, it had a lot of good things in it, and I think today, as I was thinking about it after the fact, I'm like, you know, the more I think back to this movie, there's a lot of good things in this movie. So I'm going to talk about those. First, I want to talk about different, like, the character portrayals. Alden Ehrenreich did a really good job portraying Han Solo. He wasn't trying to be completely Harrison Ford, but he did embody a lot of that character, and I think he, you kind of forgot that this, is supposed to be somebody trying to be Harrison Ford. And he did a pretty good job of me just saying, you know what, just take the ball and run with it, dude. Because I gotta tip my hat to him. He's a good actor. He did a great job. I didn't see anything that I was like, oh, well, he screwed that part up. Like, and there were very few parts in this movie that I actually said, I disagree. I don't like that. I think I can only think of one right off the bat that I absolutely didn't like. And it's a silly thing. It's a nitpick. Donald Glover was awesome. The first scene, I thought it was straight up Billy D. Williams doing the voice, because there were moments where he would slip back into being Donald Glover for a little bit, but for the most part, he was very much Lando. Like the voice would sometimes closer to Billy D. Like he was like right up here. So sometimes he'd be a little more Billy D, and sometimes he'd be a little more Donald. But he was always Lando, and he did a great job with that, and I like that. Chewie was a little underdeveloped, and this is kind of one nitpick as like my only, and it's not a big thing because I understand they have to tell a story, but like I guess one criticism with Chewie is that you have this scene where he's a monster, and they first meet, and Han's thrown into this pit, and Chewie's gonna eat him, and he's covered in mud, and it's like Luke in the Rancor pit, and then all of a sudden Han just goes, "Rrr," and Chewie's like, oh, well, we're best friends now. It felt. I know there's more to it than that, and there's a certain way you can think of it and say no. Logically, they were joined together at the chain. They had to. They had to escape. They had to work together, at least for a little bit. And then by the time they got the chain off, they were on this ship, so they were already stuck together. And then she was like, all right, well, you did save my life. Yes, but because there wasn't any focus on, Chewie talking to him. It's like, I don't know you. Like, if Chewie could speak, if they gave subtitles, it would have been something like, I don't know you, man. And, and I'm not sure how I feel about you, but okay, we'll stick together. And then I'm going my own separate way, But it from a certain point of view, it also seemed like a simple, we're best friends for life now. You didn't get that. I don't know. Slight nitpick, but that's something that doesn't take away my enjoyment of the film. That's just nitpicking. And I think it's fine to nitpick, because even though this isn't one of my favorite Star Wars movies, it's still a Star Wars movie, and it was still an enjoyable experience. Some people really, really liked it, and if you did, I'm so happy for you, because and I mean that genuinely. That sounds condescending, but I mean that genuinely. I want people to have a good experience with Star Wars, with these movies as a whole. So, but that being said, it's also okay to nitpick, I think, as long as you're not trying to be cruel, or as long as you're trying to just have fun with it. And that was one of those things where I can be like, anytime you're, now this could even become a meme. Anytime you're about to fight with somebody, just go, and you can become best friends. It could be a fun thing. We could have fun with that. L3 was awesome. Maybe my favorite character of the film. Maybe. I like everything. Now, granted, I had read Last Shot, and they talked about L3. From reading the book Last Shot, which is one of the worst books on the planet, but it had a few redeeming qualities. But one of the things that I gathered from it is that I gathered L3 was going to die in this movie, because they talk about how close they were, and then at a certain point, like, as it jumps through time, it's like, oh yeah, in the past these two were really, really tight, and then afterwards they don't mention her at all, and I'm like, okay, they're deliberately not mentioning her, because they're out of fear of it being a spoiler, which means she's gonna die. I sometimes read between the lines on some of these things, because I'm spoiler centric. You can just say, you can say something that's not a spoiler, and I can look at what you didn't say and infer spoilers from that. So I kind of had a feeling L3 was going to die. I actually had a feeling just about everybody was going to die, except for Lando, Han, and Chewie. And that's almost what happened. All right. So, but L3, but cool thing is, first off, her complex, her programming, everything about her character, her attraction to Lando, her love of Lando was really, really cute. Her death scene was, or quasi-death scene with Lando and his reaction to her, it was really powerful. It was really something. I gotta tell you, it hurt him, and it was a good acting job by him, and how he recovered from that. And you could tell he was just suppressing it, because he's a guy who kind of suppresses his feelings. But I mean, that was a good scene. That was one of those high marks. That's when L3 died, and Lando just rushed out to carry parts of her body back into the Falcon. Powerful scene. But then they incorporating her into the Millennium Falcon is an Easter egg, and it's a good Easter. It's an Easter egg to those times where R2 is interfacing with the Millennium Falcon's computer, and C-3PO is like, "Oh, he says you have a very strange computer." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's got L3 in there, so maybe it's part of L3 spoke to R2, kind of helped, with him. I mean, he was always pretty sentient all along, anyway." Not as, as completely droid liberation front as L3 is, but L3 was really cool. Instantly lovable droids. Sometimes the droids are the most beloved characters in these movies. Like K2SO was amazing in Rogue One. L3 was amazing here. Fantastic job with L3. Enfys Nest surprised me a little bit. I thought all along Enfys Nest was female. Even from the very first time you hear the voice in some of the earlier trailers, when the modulated voice is like, "You had to know we'd see you," it was just a lighter, it seemed almost like a given. And I think there were some spoilers leaked that hinted that Enfys might be female. Of course, that doesn't matter. And I didn't really care. I'm like, okay, so I just went into the movie assuming Enfys Nest was female. But then they said he earlier in the movie, and so then I was like, why are they calling Enfys Nest a he? Isn't it a female? Again, doesn't matter. Pirates can be whatever. It's Star Wars, That being said, the bigger shock was that they were good guys. And that was pretty cool. And it kind of talks about with the birth of the rebellion. But not only that, the character. I thought it was really cool. The actress who played Enfys Nest, I find it refreshing to have somebody who's got a lot of freckles and stuff, and doesn't appear to have a ton of makeup on, because I'm tired of seeing cookie cutter people on screen, and I want to see more diverse people represented. And she had a unique look, and she was very pretty, but she had just a unique appearance, and so I liked that. But she had that look of youth and fighting for something, and that fire of youth. that goes along, and it seemed like it was almost like a reference to like the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride. Like my mother was Enfys Nest, and then when she died, I took over and I became Enfys Nest, and when I die, my child will become Enfys Nest. So you might see another Enfys Nest someday in the future, the grandchild of this young Enfys Nest. So that's kind of cool. But that and also I really liked the scene where. Where they double crossed and it was a surprise, and then this Enfys Nest jumps down, and knocks down all of those the guards. Like cool scenes, a good performance, good action with this character. A surprise, like a sleeper you hit. And this is one of the characters I came back and I thought about. I'm like, you know what? The Enfys Nest scenes were all really on point. It was just well done. Like those were some of my favorite scenes in the movie. So I got to give props to Enfys Nest. Really liked Enfys Nest. And Emilia Clarke, or with all the other characters, right? Like I kind of called that, like at least with some of them. I don't know if I did it on YouTube or if I just did it with talking with people, but I kind of predicted that going into this that, yes, of course, Han, Lando, and Chewie weren't going to die, but pretty much everybody else could die, and it wouldn't matter because you didn't really know those characters. So yes, you had Jon Favreau's little alien guy dies at the beginning. Tobias Beckett dies. Almost everybody dies. L3 dies. I didn't know if I thought maybe Emilia Clarke would die, but it almost the same thing. What I definitely thought is that she would be betrayed. In the trailers, or that she would betray Han, and they kind of give that away in the trailer when Beckett's like saying trust nobody, and then they zoom in on her. I'm like, well. Obviously, the person he thinks is closest to him is going to be the person to turn their back on him or to double cross him. But the problem was, maybe not a problem, a nitpick is that there was too much betrayal. There was like double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, sextuple crossing. And I'm like, at a certain point, you're like, okay, we get it. How many more betrayals are we going to get, until we get to the end, so, but I thought very quickly while watching this movie, realizing what kind of position she was in, that she would probably try to rise through the ranks of the criminal underworld, that she wouldn't be, content. And so like this, her entire arc in this movie I thought was extremely predictable. The one thing I didn't see coming was like one of the coolest parts of this movie, and the only real aha moment was the reveal of Darth Maul. So that was really well done. That was one of the best parts of the movie. Maybe like the best little highlight Easter egg surprise part. So this was one of those bright spots. When I talked about in my review and how the whole thing was kind of mediocre and predictable, the Darth Maul scene was awesome. But and it makes sense because this is in a time, yes, Darth Maul was taking over like the criminal underworld, but this was all during the Clone Wars. And if you remember, like he got basically beaten by Palpatine. And then you don't really see him again until Rebels, and he's got ties to the Mandalorians at that point, but he's not doing all this criminal underworld stuff. He's kind of done. So it does kind of open up another chapter in Darth Maul's story. So they could maybe talk about that a little bit more. But it looks like that was Ray Park performing Darth Maul. So it was to see Darth Maul on screen, not just animated, but physically Ray Park Darth Maul again. That was awesome. And Sam Witwer voicing him was awesome. Those were, thinking about that, and I wasn't sure if it was Sam Witwer at the time, because I was like, boy, that sounds just like animated Darth Maul, So Ray Park has done some vocal work, And then I found out after the fact it was Sam Witwer. I'm like, oh, yes, that's so good. One step closer to getting the Star Killer on screen, bringing Sam Witwer into the movies. We got to get a big Star Killer fan here, big Sam Witwer fan. So great to have Darth Maul there in that scene. It was great. It was great. It was great until the end. And this is a nitpick. This is not a real criticism, but this is a thing that really annoys me, is that he turned on his lightsaber. That's why did he need to, like, who goes into a hologram and turns up, like are you ever talking, like who sits on a telephone and is like, hey, I'm so and so, here's my gun, boom boom boom, I just wanted you to know that it's really me, right? Like, who needs to turn on a lightsaber in a hologram when you're just having a phone call, right? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't. Well, and I know why it was there. I think it was there for your casual fans who are like, who is that? Is that Darth? Who is that guy? He looks kind of familiar. Oh, double-bladed lightsaber. That must be Darth Maul. You know, it's for your very casual fan who may have seen Episode 1 a long time ago. It's there just to reinforce, yes, this is Darth Maul. The other thing is, like, this is funny. I was immediately thinking back to like certain things I've seen on Twitter and on social media, like of like a checklist or bingo or like things that I think we're gonna see and things that we're not gonna see. And I saw somebody's like, "Will we see an ignited lightsaber?" And it was like, "No," you know. So I feel like it was put in there almost to make sure that somebody lost a bet, you know. There was no story reason for him to turn on his lightsaber, especially she knows who he is, right? He just has to look at you the wrong way to intimidate the crap out of you. He doesn't have to turn on his lightsaber. I get they were trying to tell the audience that he was very dangerous. And maybe he was there, maybe they turned it on so that people who didn't see the prequels, who didn't know that he was Sith or something like that, that he didn't know that he was a Darth or a dark side or a Force user, that they would recognize, just to reinforce, oh, he's a bad dude. Because if maybe you saw this movie and you hadn't seen the prequels, or at least Episode 1, and didn't know who Darth Maul was, then that lightsaber would at least cue you in that he was a Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine kind of Force-level evil, major power. Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure. But I just feel like it was in there to try to be a fan service, and it just didn't serve a purpose. Like, if they wanted to have a lightsaber, they could have done some kind of better reason. Like, maybe he showed up in person and cut Dryden Voss down for failing him. And then, I feel like there might have been a better way if you wanted to have an ignited lightsaber on screen. Or maybe she went to him in person, and then he turned on the lightsaber and held it at her neck to threaten her. Then all of a sudden, there would have been an actual reason. But turning it on in a hologram just seems weak to me. Again, that's my biggest criticism with the movie, like my biggest direct criticism. And it's really more of a nitpick because that doesn't ruin the movie for me. That's just a nitpick. Again, I've always said it's fine to nitpick. I think we only nitpick about movies that we love. I wouldn't nitpick about the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants because it's not worth my energy. At least for me, it's not a movie that I'm into. So no offense if you like that movie. I just picked something out of the thin air. But yes, I kind of saw this coming. I guess all of Emilia Clarke's stuff just lended itself to the predictability of the movie. Now, I thought the Kessel Run was done really well. There was a lot of stuff on Kessel that were, a lot of the things were just very predictable. We're going to do a job, it goes sour, we got to do another job to make up for it. Han meets Chewie, Han meets Lando, we do the Kessel Run. The Falcon goes from being one we don't recognize to being one we do recognize, and we see a lot of that. Everything that you kind of expected would happen, happened. There was very, very little surprises. The Enfys Nest thing was a little surprise. Darth Maul was a little surprise. But nothing major. And this is my problem is some people were like, well, what could you get that was major? It was a backstory. What do you expect? I'm like, yeah, I expect not to have to watch backstory movies anymore. I want them to start making future story movies. I'm so much more excited about things that we don't know these people. Like whatever Rian Johnson does. Say what you will about Rian Johnson. Whatever he does, as long as it's not like taking beloved characters or known characters that we know that they're safe. Then we're going to do a story about Owen and Beru Lars in the years before they got Luke. Well, they're going to be safe, so don't put them in danger because now you're wasting my time. Things like that. So let's go back to, but if it's new characters, I'm fine with that. If it's EU or Legends characters that you're now pulling into the timeline, I'm super excited about that because, sure, it's a beloved character, but it's all new in the new canon, so anything goes. Like Thrawn, for example, right? Anything goes with Thrawn now. So his future is unwritten, and he is not safe. So if he is in danger, I will be on the edge of my seat. So like Thrawn super excited. So that's the only way you can get away with writing, new stuff about a pre-existing character, is if the future for them is unwritten. At least that's my personal preference. That's my personal bias. That's what, because I love not knowing what's happening. And so, like, for this movie, it seemed completely obvious what was happening. So that hurt my enjoyment of this movie. Also, the lack of Star Destroyers versus Mon Calamari ships and stuff. I would have loved that. Again, my personal bias. Those are things that I like more about Star Wars. We didn't really get. And also Jedi stuff. Granted, yes, we did see a lightsaber, but and that way I sat up in my seat. I was kind of like this watching the movie, and then when that happened, I was like, ooh. So I mean, you got some kind of candy in the movie, so to speak. But the Kessel Run was done fairly well. It was predictable. It made sense. Somebody had said, I don't know if it was Pablo Hidalgo or somebody had said something along the lines of, yes, it's the ship that made the Kessel Run, but that doesn't mean that it's Han that flew it. Well, Han did fly it, so. I was expecting it was going to be Lando, piloting the ship. And I think what maybe, if something like that was said, maybe they were referring to that L3 is the one who made that calculation possible. But at the same time, making that Kessel Run, I kind of have mixed emotions on it, because it was just, we just needed this calculation. Okay, boom, we did it. I mean, it was dangerous, and I guess the way closed up, so it can't ever be done again. But it's not like the ship's speed is what, in episode 4, Obi-Wan's like, is it a fast ship? He's like, it's the ship that made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Like, that makes you think that its speed was really a factor there, and it's not the speed of the ship that was the factor. It was that little, that nitrous oxide stuff, or that the super juice they put in the engine that made it possible, along with L3's L3 Communications as a company, along with L3's coordinates. So a little bit of stuff is kind of misrepresented there, but that's just Han bragging about it, and you see that. And I think they did a good job of setting up things that you already know, like him bragging about the Kessel Run, even though it wasn't just his doing. It was a combination of a lot of things, but mostly the ship. So, again, well done. All the stuff that was going on here, the music during this whole scene was really, really good. The music through the whole movie was good. Enfys Nest's theme was good. The music during the Kessel Run was actually really, really good, because it mirrored Empire Strikes Back. There were asteroids. You had TIE fighters crashing into asteroids. You had them bumping into asteroids. A lot of stuff like that. So, very cool. Little bit of maybe a letdown is that I was expecting to see more with the little escape pod in the front. I like how Lando explained what he had done to the Falcon, so I feel like they've successfully bridged the gap between its cameo in Episode 3 and here. Lando's, bragging about all the special things that he's done. He's added this, he's added that, he's, had all this custom work done to it. Again, okay, and that's why it's not a stock YT-1300. Got it. Liked the name drop of the VCX 100, by the way, when they're playing cards. Let's talk about the Crabbok and the gambling. I guess another minor nitpick is, weren't these supposed to be the dice that Han used to win the Millennium Falcon? Because how did he do that, right? Was that at the very end? So they go back to gamble again. Han sees the little device in Lando's arm and does something like basically disables it. Maybe he used these dice to short circuit his device. Maybe, but they weren't clear, because I thought all along that these dice had something to do with him winning the Millennium Falcon, and they had nothing to do with anything. They were just there as, they were important to him. That's all. That's weird. But yes, at least he did win it playing Crabbok. And I think the gambling was good, because there was 2 scenes. You have the first scene that you're all expecting to see, Han playing Lando, and Lando cheats to win. Little nitpick here, Han owes Lando a VCX 100 as per the end of this game, right? And he's like, it's in the shop, and then they have something else to do. They get distracted. They never come back to this. Han still owes Lando a VCX 100. So maybe there's a story in that, how maybe they'll tie in Rebels and Han Solo tries to get the ghost to Lando or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they did that on purpose. But then, they re-gamble again at the end of the movie, and then they wager the ship, and then Han cheats just like but because he stole the card that Lando had up his sleeve and then wins. And so I can see, that, or well, doesn't really cheat. He stole his card. I think he beat him. I don't know the rules of Sabacc well enough, but I think he had beaten him without that extra card. And so Lando is, I get the whole after what you pulled, you disabled my thing, and he's like, no, I won it from you fair and square. So I get it. Like they set all the future stuff up really well. They set a lot of that stuff up really well. I liked it. I definitely liked the movie. There were some other really cool Easter eggs too. Terras Kasi. So Emilia Clarke's character is whooping up on some aliens, and she names it. She's like, yeah, it's Terras Kasi. I learned it over in Crimson, Crimson Dawn. You're like, what? Granted, Terras Kasi was in one of the books in the Last Jedi Visual Dictionary. That's one of the arts that the Praetorian Guard are trained in. But to hear it actually called out verbally in a movie as a result of a cool scene is very exciting to me because, dude, please, if you want to see a Terras Kasi movie, let's start talking about that. I mean, not a movie, a Terras Kasi game. If only EA could get away. Maybe Capcom? Maybe Capcom could get a license to make a Terras Kasi game? Oh my gosh. Dude, especially if it's tag format, like Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Imagine a Star Wars fighting game in modern style. Oh my goodness. That'd be fun. I mean, we got one of the most popular IPs in the world. Let's make 1,000 video games for it, okay? And maybe 5 of them will be good. Aura Singh, we had some bounty hunter name drops. That was pretty cool. Aura Singh was mentioned at that Tobias Beckett killed her. Bosk was name dropped pretty early. Val name dropped Bosk. Val was somebody I was kind of expecting more out of too. But with the whole train job, the train job is another thing I want to talk about. While it was a cool looking scene and it's very iconic, the train job was overall well done. When they opened up that thing, you had all the ore, all the gold. We'll call it gold, but it was this power, this refined fuel. You could have just grabbed it, right? I mean, you wouldn't have gotten all of it, but you could have grabbed some, in case something went sour. I don't know. Again, just a nitpick, not a direct criticism of the film. The writing was, for the most part, well done. Let's see. One thing I almost thought they weren't going to do. We were getting close to the end of the movie, almost to the end of the movie, and I said, so if you followed along with all the trailers for this movie, 90% of the trailers start off with Woody Harrelson saying, "Big shot gangster, putting together a crew," And so, if you go on YouTube, every one of the trailers, the most liked comment is somebody making a joke about Big Shot Gangster putting together a crew. I had said on one of these, watch, they don't even say that in the movie. And I thought I was going to be right, and I was going to, I don't know, I was going to do a little dance. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they actually didn't put it in the movie. And then it ends up happening at the very, very end. And I'm like, oh, because I thought they make it seem like he's talking about Dryden Voss. And since you got all the way through all this stuff, you were like, well, he didn't say it. He didn't say it. They're not going to say it. And then, of course, he said it. So Big Shot Gangster putting together a crew is going to be I don't know. It's just something. It needs to be a meme or something because it's just so funny how they use that in every single trailer, just about. But yes, so they did get that in there. Overall, I think that's about it. There's a lot of. Some people were talking about the Arrestor cruiser wasn't actually in there. That's the new Imperial ship. There were a lot of ships in the background. There was a propaganda display when Han was trying to sign up for the Imperial Navy, and and it was actually in a little hologram, so you could see the Arrestor cruiser. There were a lot of ships above the sky on Corellia, so there's potential for a lot of that stuff. So I'll be looking with I'm getting the visual dictionary for Solo, and it should arrive today. So I'll be kind of looking at that and looking at what new canon ships are available. So look for more videos about that. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed because you can enter to win a giveaway for a gaming expansion of your choice in the form of a $20 Cool Stuff gift card. All you have to do is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this or one of my videos. If you hop in my Discord, we do have a chat channel now for movie spoilers, so you can jump in there if you want to just talk spoilers with everybody, talk about your overall things about the movie. And you can leave a comment as well, but please use spoiler tags as well if you want to talk about anything spoiler related, anything maybe that I left out. What did you really like most about the movie? I get people's opinions are all over the place. Overall, I do think it was a good movie. I just don't think it was great. It didn't appeal to the things that I wanted from it, but maybe my expectations weren't really there. Let me know what you think, though, guys. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, make sure you subscribe, click that little bell for alerts. Check out Crabbok.com, check out my Discord. I have a lot of fingers. I don't know why I'm holding them up all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.